Before she became very, very popular, television personality Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job as a news commentator on a Baltimore station. J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter book was turned down 12 times before a publisher took it. As a priest, Pope Francis was estranged from his own Jesuit community because he did not abide by liberation theology. Have you ever felt left out? Have you ever felt rejected? Your friends get an invitation to a party and you don't? You're not paid a wage equal to a male co-worker simply because you're a woman. Your church excludes you because of your gender identity. Maybe you've been turned down for a mortgage in a neighborhood that you wanted to move into because of your color. You can't get a job because you're just too old. Today's biblical texts offer us some encouragement, especially for those who are feeling rejected right now, feeling left out. The passage from Isaiah was written as the Israelites were moving out of exile, out of captivity, and they were on their way to Jerusalem, the new city of God. Along the way, some voices amongst them wanted to restrict membership in that Israelite community only to those who abided by certain ethnic lines. Professor of religion Blake Cooey said that God disagreed with those people and radically expanded the boundaries so that others could be included. And in doing so, then God extended the boundaries. God extended the blessings and the prosperity to all peoples, especially foreigners. If the people are wise, the prophet warned, they will pay attention to the words of God, or else. A couple of weeks ago, we heard from the same prophet. God said, "You will have everything you want, and you should not worry if you have no money. I will take care of you. I'll pick up the bill." The second reading today emphasizes that God will always keep that promise, no matter what. God's gifts are unconditional, whether you're male or female, slave or free, Jew or Greek or Muslim, all people are equal in the eyes of God. All people. So one wonders then why so many people are left out of God's abundance on this planet today. According to the Pew Research Center, 70% of Americans claim to be Christian. 70%, 7 out of 10 people in this country are Christian. Our biblical texts, the Christian biblical texts, remind us that we must join ourselves to Yahweh, meaning that we must honor our covenant with God, that it's up to us to honor that agreement, to worship God, and to treat one another with justice. That's part of the deal. So it's very, very hard to understand why so many Christians are in favor of denying certain people their human rights because of race, religion, or color. Why do so many Christians affirm or join hate groups in the name of God? Why do they harm those who disagree with them? There is good news. Like many communities, Clifton Park, New York, has a neighborhood hub for trusted connections. It's called Nextdoor. Maybe some of you get that website. And recently, the website joined with ABC's program called Localish. Localish. It features stories about neighbors right here in our community, neighbors from different backgrounds, coming from different places of origin, and they come together to bridge what divides them, to engage in productive conversations, and then to take some action to make sure all peoples are treated with respect. Also, maybe you've read this, chief executive officers from 29 major companies just announced plans to create jobs, pathways to stable careers for New Yorkers in low-income and diverse communities. This is good news. These are wonderful examples of listening to and responding to those who have been rejected or left out in one way or another. Today's gospel tells the story of a woman who is also on the outside looking in. All she wanted from Jesus was mercy so that her little daughter would be cured. Author Mary McGloin said the woman already had 2 strikes against her. She was a foreign woman traveling alone without a man. And her people, the Canaanites, were enemies of the Jews. No wonder Jesus paid no attention to her. The gospel follows a previous section in the Gospel of Matthew that says one's race, ethnicity, gender, disability, or social class does not degrade or sully a person. New Testament scholar Mitzi Smith wrote that it's often hard, isn't it, to empathize with other people, their stories, the hardships that other people have, people who are not like us. If the oppression and injustice or pain is not happening to me, not happening to us, my family, if it's not happening here in our neighborhoods, then, according to this professor of theology, we dismiss it as an unwelcomed, unjustified noise. And that's just what the disciples wanted to do with that woman in the gospel. They wanted to get rid of her, silence her. The Canaanite woman, some say, her name was Justa, continued to raise her voice at Jesus, asking for mercy. And in an unusual retort, Jesus replied sternly and said, "It's not fair to take children's bread and throw it to the dogs." Ostensibly, Jesus wanted nothing to do with the woman. He did not want to waste his time dealing with a non-Jew. Highly unusual for Jesus. Undismayed, the woman came right back at Jesus and said, "Wait a minute. Even dogs are fed crumbs off the table." Jesus, as we know, who would later be rejected himself, he got the message. Sensing that the woman's faith and her steadfast concern for the health of her child, Jesus changed his attitude and granted her wish. And the daughter was healed. Jesus does listen to us. Many women in history have been tenacious in their causes, just like the Canaanite woman, even though they too were rejected and ignored. Activists Rosa Parks and Susan B. Anthony, artists Yoko Ono and Judy Chicago, writers Anne Frank and Gertrude Stein, clergy women Allison Cheek and Carter Haywood, and scientists like Nettie Stevens and Esther Lederberg. There are hundreds, thousands of other women who down through history have gone unnoticed simply because they were a woman. Yet their perseverance has reaped many rewards for others, especially women who have been rejected or unnoticed in their own lives. No one likes to be left out or ostracized. I'm sure you don't. I don't. However, people who are on the outside, living on the fringes of society, they can get a fair chance to succeed and thrive. All you and I have to do is break open the borders to let them in.